builders, not just spoilers. But that future cannot be assured if the young people don't look at themselves as a building, not a destructor of that future. And she says that peace messages, education, and those political contestants acknowledging this idea of young people are not just tokens. You can't just use them and abuse them. Because after all, what she says that even when we look into the images, their kids are not among those they send to spoil the situation. These campaigns have actually been complemented by other campaigns. We've seen the Friends of Uganda. There's a campaign that is moving around the ghetto areas, trying to rally as many young people from the margins to center and focus on peace. We've seen the Netherlands Institute of Multiparty Democracy trying to move around with messages of peace. These critical images, grassroots testimonies, grassroots campaigns make it clear, and make it clear and make it loud. Peace campaigns like the Open Space campaign are telling us that peace is a lived reality in our communities. Homes, schools, workplaces, public spaces. It's not an abstract. It's not a concept that we assume and imagine or dream. Peace is practical and necessary. Without peace, we will actually take this country down beyond the years of independence. But it takes those who are at the center of guarding peace, ensuring that there is an element of justice that allows anyone in to have their share of a contribution. That this country is a national contribution, not just a one vision or one section of image or one section of ideas. But the one rallying point when I scan through all these images, the grassroots campaigns, the testimonies, the movement, there's so many pieces that are preaching peace, are all centering to the idea that we are the melting point of this region. We host more refugees, more than any country in this continent. The only hope and the only melting point in this country. Our president is a de facto president of close to about 13 countries. I'm speaking from a foreign policy perspective. So in other words, if you mess up the melting point, then you mess up the entire continent. And I don't want to be part of that statistics. We might have our disagreements of who should be where. We might have our disagreements of who should not participate. We might have our disagreements of who should have a stake in this country. You know, this business of peace building is a whole of society approach. It's not just the business of security, it's the business of everyone. Families, religious leaders, civic entities, media, it's everyone's business. You see, I keep saying that Uganda is more bigger than all egos combined. It's our shared business, it's our shared language, and that is peace. Of course, recently we saw members of the Inter-Party Dialogue come up with the National Peace Declaration in response to what they see as increasingly fragile political climate. So IPOD has recently convened the National Peace Conference that happened, I think, 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago in Kampala, and adopted what they call the National Peace Declaration. This declaration calls on all of us as stakeholders, political party, security actors, young people, mothers, daughters, businesses, to reaffirm our commitment that we might have all sorts of disagreements, but we have shared aspirations and shared visions. We have kids who go to school, we have businesses, we have ideas of where we want our country to go. But that should be affirmed with an anchor of political commitment to peace. Of course, it urges leaders to reject violence. We've seen, I think that's a positive move. Political parties have all signed up to the declaration. They seem to agree, even when others agree on paper, but when they get into the crowds, they have their own reservations related to that. But one thing I can remind that it is our constitutional, not just a political responsibility, to make sure that even when you're building, you build in an environment of peace. But we don't just want to talk about peace where there's no justice. These two conceptual realms move together. And I think it's also important. If you don't manage right, it's going to affect our investment. It will actually diminish the investment confidence. No one would want to put their monies in a country that doesn't have certainty of do the laws work, are the processes fair, is there security, is there inclusion, do the laws work for a few and they don't work for others? This example we see in Tanzania, and no one will tell you how much ramification or how much implication Tanzania is going through. I am the first in this country to tell you that. Because my business is to look at how other countries fare and how this country fares. And it's the reason in these elections, we
were young by the time they took over power. But it depends on how you like to take over power. Is it by force?